Assalamu alaikum. Today, we're talking about compound sentences, okay? But before we start talking about compound sentences in detail, let's quickly review just by mentioning what we learned already, okay? Of the things that you learned already, before the compound sentence would be one, you learned how to write a simple sentence. Okay, and if you remember, there were 9 different ways to do that. Okay. Then also, after learning the 9 different ways of writing a simple sentence, you learned about modifiers. Okay, so adding the modifiers to the simple sentences. All right, and then after that, you learned about compounding. Okay, and so now we're talking about compound sentences, because compounding, if you remember, we talked about that you can compound the subject, the verb, the object, and the predicate of the sentence. All right, and for the modifiers, we talked about how modifiers, there are modifiers for nouns, there are modifiers for verbs, and there are modifiers for sentences. Okay, and you know, of course, if you need to review that, then you need to go back to the video that was about that. Okay, because now you should be at the stage where we can do all of those things, as well as what you will learn today, which is compounding sentences. Okay, so if you're compounding sentences, then obviously you're going to have at least 2 sentences. All right, so let's start by writing one sentence, all right, with a subject, a verb, and an object. Okay, let's see. Tom ate chicken. All right, so we have our subject, Tom, the verb, ate, and the object, chicken. All right, so now let's take this. It's now a simple sentence. All right, but let's also add some modifiers, okay, just as a practice for the things that you already learned. All right, so we're going to say for the noun Tom, we're going to say young Tom. Okay, we're going to say quickly ate. All right, and then we're going to say delicious chicken. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, all right, so so now we have added modifiers, all right, to the sentence. Okay, we added an adjective for Tom, an adverb for ate. All right, we had another noun, so we added an adjective for chicken. Now, we also can go back and add modifier for the sentence, which could be an adverb or it could be a phrase, but let's go with a phrase because we don't have a phrase in the sentence. All right. Okay, so we said in the restaurant, that will be our prepositional phrase. All right, now what we need to do is let's go ahead now and write another sentence. All right, so that later we can create a compound sentence. All right, so let's think of another sentence. We're going to do it the same way. All right, let's just go with a subject, a verb, and an object. All right, so let's say Karen. All right, drank juice. Okay, now, we can add modifiers here as well. All right. Let's say fat Karen. All right. Slowly drank apple juice. Now we could put apple juice, but we'll be using a noun to act as an adjective for another noun. So let's go ahead with a pure adjective. Okay. Cold juice. Okay. And this can also be in the restaurant. Just to make it easy for when we combine the two together. All right, if we have the same place that they actually, well, it doesn't even have to be because, but logically it could be. All right, but let's say in front of the restaurant. Okay, let's just change it up a little bit. Right, in front of the restaurant. Okay. All right, now we're going to see how we're going to make a compound sentence now. All we have to do simply, we're just going to compound both of these together. All right, but how do we do it? Well, we're going to have to use a comma. And let's start with the simple one first. All right, and say, Tom ate chicken, comma, we have to put that there because there are two independent sentences that are being joined together, making it into a compound sentence. One is not dependent on the other. Both of them can stand alone. All right, so we just put a comma and we put a conjunction. All right, when we put our comma, we're going to put a conjunction that shows the relationship, whether directly or indirectly, the relationship between the two sentences. All right, so the easiest one to add is just and. All right, so we just say and we put our second sentence, Karen drank juice. Okay, so you can see here that we now have a compound sentence. All right, but know that we have many choices. All right, it's called Fanboys. That's what I usually tell students to remember. All right, in order to remember which conjunctions to use when making, compound sentences. So F is, for, and, A for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. All right. So these are the conjunctions that you use to join two sentences together and have them, maintain the status of being a compound sentence. If you use other conjunctions, then you are not creating a compound sentence. Remember, we have simple sentences, we have compound sentences, we have complex sentences, and also you can combine sentences together using adverbial conjunctions. So you could be creating another type of sentence and you don't know why, which means that you may be making mistakes. Maybe you wrote a sentence wrong, but you don't know that it's wrong or why. So stick to what you have learned and don't experiment unless you're going to show it to me for me to check it and tell you that it's wrong and why it's wrong. All right. But other than that, you should work with what you know, like you're building a house, building blocks, making your foundation strong firstly, and then building upon that. All right. So of course, if you're going to come to class, you just said, I want to try this sentence that I felt like could be right, but I want to know, is it right or wrong? And then I can tell you, oh, well, it's right or it's wrong. Of course, if it's wrong, then I have to explain to you why it's wrong, but then you may be getting into a lesson that we didn't start yet. That's the thing about experiments. So I'm not going to go into a new lesson that is not a part of the current lesson, but I may just tell you, okay, it's wrong. All right, but when we get to a lesson about that, then I can explain to you in detail why that's wrong. All right, but so far, if you do what you're taught and what you were told so far, you should be writing perfect sentences. All right, like I said, you should know how to write a simple sentence 9 different ways. You should know how to add the modifiers. You should know how to compound each part of your sentence, the subject, the verb, the object, the predicate. All right, and just like we did here with Tom ate chicken and Karen drank juice, well, you can also take the longer version, which we wrote with the modifiers, and add them together the same way. You would simply say, young Tom quickly ate delicious chicken in the restaurant, comma, and fat Karen slowly drank juice in front of the restaurant. All right. Now, if there's a certain relationship, meaning like the opposite meaning takes place, now you can use a conjunction such as but. If there's an opposite, that's usually where but will take, will explain that, the meanings between the two sentences are actually the opposite or a conflict. If it's the same, or even if there's a difference, and can work with both, but and will not highlight that there's a difference in the meaning, a contradiction or difference. All right. If or for choices. So you have to know what you're doing. If something is negative in the next sentence that comes after it is also carrying a negative meaning, you can use nor. All right. So you have to, when something doesn't change, you use the, yet. When something's like the result of something, you say, so. All right. So these are relationships that you have to know why you're choosing that particular conjunction for, and, nor, but, or, yet. So if you want to play it safe, then and will play it safe. But since you have homework to do, and I'm going to give you homework, you're going to have to write at least one example for each one of these conjunctions. And the more time you have, then do more. If you're going to do one of each, then obviously you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then 7, you're going to do one of each. So I should at least see 7 sentences for homework. But if you have more time, don't waste your time. You did 7, do 14. You did 14, do 21. You did 21, do 28. All right. So it depends on how much time you have. All right. And then when you come to class, I'll check them and correct them. And if it's wrong, tell you why it's wrong. All right. So that's it for the lesson for today for compounding, or compound sentence, because it's the very next lesson after learning compounding, because compounding within the sentence, within the simple sentence, we did that. So the next lesson, which is this one, is making a compound sentence, in this case, we're actually compounding two sentences together, creating a compound sentence. All right, our next lesson after this should be the complex sentence. All right, if there's any changes, I'll let you know, but at this particular point, it appears that the next lesson should be the lesson about the complex sentence. Okay, all right, enjoy your day, do your homework. And if you're just a person who missed this class and so you had to take the video session, then I'll see you in class next class. If you're one of the people that has the video lesson, the video course, then when you finish your homework, then go to the next lesson. All right, so don't rush it. Make sure you know what you have learned very well before going on to the next lesson. It's usually taking 3 days between each session. That's the norm. But if you want to do it, in less time, that's fine. All right, but just make sure you're not going so fast that you forget the things that you learn. Repetition is very important, so it's really better to pace yourself and watch this video more than once, at least once a day, and do homework for it at least once a day. And then by the third day, start looking at the new lesson. All right. Thank you. Enjoy your day. All right. And I'll see you for the next lesson.